I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, November the 15th, where we're finding some footing in this calf market, albeit at lower levels. But we're starting to see these more of these trends being steady, or maybe even a pinch higher, as we've kind of seen a free fall in this calf market here for the last couple of weeks, and finally getting down there where just about anybody's interested in them. Look at the board on Wednesday. December live cattle futures down 77 cents, but still sitting at 114.60. It's looking a whole lot more like your fat cattle trade is going to be $1.12 this week. Could be $1.13, but it's going to take some future support to get that. But we're starting to see enough $1.12, and it's looking more and more like that. Well, within 2 weeks, something's going to heal up here, because your delivery process, right or wrong, whether it helps the market or hurts the market, it is going to bring those two things together. So that 114.60 is either going to fall back down or chase the market lower, which it's going to have to hightail it to get as low as the market is, or else your fat market's going to come back up to meet it. But you know, we'll get into December here quick enough, and we will bring those two together just like we did in October. But running a negative basis right here right now, and it's sure tough on these guys selling fat cattle below what the board is, and having a negative basis, and a lot of times not even reaching their break even, because they hooked those hedges on and weren't quite reaching it, and a lot of guys losing a lot of money. February the live cattle contract down 15 cents at 118.60. November feeder cattle steady or unchanged at 148.97 to end the day on Wednesday, and January also steady or unchanged at 146.97. Your fat cattle trade, we haven't seen a whole lot happen through Tuesday. We'd only Monday and Tuesday together, we'd only traded 1,800 head in your 5-area feeding region. We saw a lot more than that on Wednesday, still all in the northern plains, and by and large mostly in Iowa. But through Tuesday we had some 111 and 112, 175, 176, both of those significantly lower. Wednesday we saw some more Iowa trade, 110 on some heavy steers, like we've been mentioning all week, and you guys are tired of hearing me talk about these severe penalties on the big heavy steers is really taking a toll on the market here, with a lot of guys, especially in eastern Nebraska, that have a lot of those heavy cattle, and felt like they were okay as they were feeding them to that weight, trying to chase a profit into those cattle. But also in Iowa on Wednesday, 110.5 to 112 on average weight cattle. And we've seen a pen of cattle in Kansas earlier this week bring $1.12, and it's going to take quite a bit to get this market off of $1.12. I know the guys in the Southern Plains, God bless them, they'll try. Consolidated beef producers will try for their customers that are allowing them to market their cattle for them, and pool them together and get some leverage. Hopefully they can get a little bit more out of the market, but 112 is kind of there. Your dress sales in Iowa, 175, 176, and then Nebraska, not much trading, but $1.12 everything that's sold in Nebraska. Box beef cutout values continue lower, have all week this week, and ever since the first part of last week, whenever that thing turned around and started heading south, and we saw our seasonal high there posted earlier in the week last week, and we thought that it might last another week or two, but sure hasn't. Your slaughter, because of some early week breakdowns in some Kansas processing plants, 9,000 head behind both last week and last year. Let's look at your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central late in the day on Wednesday sitting at 146.53, down another 48 cents, and just a pretty consistent market. Middle of the week we started to settle down a little bit and just be happy with the losses that we've seen the last few weeks. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 7,100 head for their 2-day sale. It was about half calves and about half feeder cattle on Wednesday. your feeder cattle steady to weak, which that was a victory. I tell you what, the bleeding finally kind of stopped there, and sure nothing any higher, but didn't lose any more in bunches. On Tuesday, the calf market was another $3 to $5 lower, and that's right in the face of all kinds of wheat demand, because we are right here at the middle of November. It's time to turn cattle out on leased wheat. Most of your farmers that lease out their wheat for grazing will allow you to turn out on November the 15th, and then they want those cattle back off of that wheat March the 15th, and they may want them off again if it gets really boggy wet around, so they won't stomp all the wheat out. But you can excuse me, I've had the coughs this week, but if you get those cattle off of there by March 15th, you can still harvest a crop, and many times it's better than it would have been, because that kind of invigorates that crop to have that grazing done through the winter time. But a lot of guys would like to keep them on graze out wheat and keep them on into April and May if they can, if they're not going to make a crop out of that. And there'll be a lot of places that they don't. But you would have thought that as much wheat as there is around, we could have kept the calf market a little bit better, but there's too much pressure, too much supply of calves, too many of them hitting the market all at the same time. Dodge City, Kansas, 2,300 head. It was lower around it. I tell you what, it's a challenge for me to try to guess that market from the way it's being reported there in south central Kansas. There's been a definite lack of training right there. But Kearney, Nebraska, don't have no lack of training there. Tom Walters reports that market and does a stand-up job, really knows what he's doing, and I got a lot of respect for him. 4,600 head there at Platte Valley Livestock in Kearney, Nebraska. Calves were $2 to $5 lower for the most part, and that's just kind of the way they are, catching up there. But we saw some other sales. Bassett, Nebraska, it was largely higher on middleweight calves, and that just goes to show you that we're starting to see more and more of these farmers park their combines. They've blowed them off, aired them out, high pressure hosed them off, and parked them back in their big sheds there. They're done for another year, been searching for a place to put all that corn. I guarantee you the last couple of truckloads nobody knows about, that'll go to feed something, and they need to get to working on that on-farm storage, because a lot of that is last year's corn or maybe even the year before that. But Bassett, Nebraska, those farmer feeders that want to come out and get those best calves, they like to go to the sand hills right there. They like the quality of those cattle out there, and not all those cattle are weaned, for sure. They're not weaned, all of them, but a good many are weaned. But they will have outstanding quality, and they will have at least a couple of rounds of shots in them. And that does help. And now that we've seen this weather get consistently cold, we won't see those big temperature swings anymore. Yeah, we'll see some sunny, nicer days, but up in the northern plains, it'll stay cold. Even when it's nice, it'll stay cool. And that's a lot easier on those cattle than having those big temperature swings. You don't want them panting and sweating one day and then freezing the next. But we've had enough cold weather now where it should stay consistently cool now through the winter, and that's when a lot of those farmer feeders that know want to get those calves bought. And also they've just seen the market go down, and they've got to the point where, yeah, I would take some calves at that price. You know, I feel comfortable at that price. They're not like the packers, where the packers beat the market down and then trade some cattle and then wait for another opportunity to beat it down the next week and the next and the next, on top of putting other ploys in, trying to cheat the market on the way down. No, you've got some guys in there, you know, hey, I don't have cows, I don't raise these calves, but I'd like to buy some. Yeah, the market's gone down, that's just the way things are. It's got in here where, yes, I would purchase some cattle at that price. Kind of a straight up honest deal, and pretty refreshing to see buyers and sellers meet at a certain point, even on a down market. But you look at Bassett, Nebraska, and you know, it's always way up there higher than anybody else. They have hard times too. When the market's down, the market's down. But it was a little better. They had kind of a tough sale a week ago. You know, they just everybody had enough calves, and even though they had a lot of good calves in there last week, everybody thought, oh, I don't need no of those high calves out of Bassett, and I can't touch them anyway because they'll be high, and then what happens, they're a lot lower. But this week you had some fresh blood come in, and the market come up a little bit. They had 3,200 head there. Bassett, I'll give you a quote on a big string of good steers there, 188 head, 545 pound steers at $1.75, and you think, well, that's no big price. No, that's a big price for the way things are right now. That's about as good as it gets, guys. Now this is better than what it gets anywhere else. They had some hard cattle there weighing in the sixes, and there'd be a lot of farmer feeders that'd like to feed some of those. 171 head of 639 pound hard cattle, $180. That's a big price there on one consignment. But some other good quotes out of there. St. Joe Stockyards, St. Joseph, Missouri, all my good friends there. 56 head of yearling steers weighed 864 pounds at $158. Very impressive. And then on some big heavy cattle, there's still good demand for them. They haven't got scared of those big weights on this end of the feedlot anyway so far. But Albion, Nebraska, 150 head of 977 pound steers, bring 153.10. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.